The morning crowd had barely settled when the sound of a heavy fist slamming against fragile skin shattered the calm of the old roadside diner. Plates rattled, coffee cups trembled, and every head turned just in time to see the young waitress stumble backward, her cheek flaming red from the blow. The bully towered over her, breathing hard, as if he had achieved something worth pride. But before anyone could react, before fear finished tightening its grip around the room, a single dad veteran sitting alone in the shadowed corner slowly rose to his feet. The steam from his untouched coffee curled upward like a warning. And in that split second, the entire diner felt the shift, like something powerful had just awakened. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. The veteran's name was Jack Rowan, a man who had seen more than enough violence in his lifetime. His days in uniform were long behind him, yet the echoes of his service still lived in his bones. Now, Jack was a single dad raising a quiet 9-year-old boy named Caleb, doing everything he could to build a peaceful life far away from the shadows of his past. Every morning, Jack brought Caleb to the same diner before school, hoping the routine could give the boy a sense of stability after years of uncertainty. This morning had been no different, until the bully shattered it. Jack knew the waitress well. Her name was Lily, barely 20, working double shifts to support her sick mother. She always smiled through her exhaustion, always remembered Caleb's favorite pancakes, always asked about Jack's work at the auto shop. She didn't deserve this. No one did. The bully, a broad man with alcohol still clinging to his breath, barked at her again for spilling a few drops of coffee on his jacket. He had been shouting for several minutes, but Lily had tried to stay calm. Everyone else kept staring at their plates, afraid of becoming targets themselves. And then he snapped, his hand flying across her face with a cruelty that froze the air. Jack didn't rush. He didn't explode. He simply walked forward with a stillness that made the bully finally turn around. Jack's eyes held none of the fire seen in action heroes or street fighters. Instead, they held a deadly clarity, the kind that comes from knowing exactly what real pain feels like and refusing to let it happen to someone innocent ever again. Before the bully could open his mouth, Jack's hand caught his wrist, holding it with an effortless grip that drained the color from the bully's face. Jack didn't need to say a word, his presence alone pushed the man back. In a single controlled movement, Jack guided him down onto one of the diner's seats, not hurting him, just removing the threat. But the bully tried to stand again, fueled by bruised ego rather than bravery. That was his mistake. Jack used the calm precision of someone who had once relied on skill to stay alive. He stepped between the man and Lily, placing himself like an immovable wall. The bully lunged, but Jack redirected the momentum, causing the man to crash into the table behind him. It was not a dramatic fight. It was simply a man who knew how to neutralize danger doing exactly what needed to be done. The room remained frozen long after the bully groaned on the floor. Lily trembled, tears running down her cheek, while Caleb clutched the straps of his backpack, watching his father with wide, trusting eyes. Jack crouched down, making sure Lily was okay, speaking to her gently until her breathing steadied. It wasn't the show of strength that moved the room, no, it was the softness in Jack's voice, the way he treated her as though her pain mattered deeply. When the police arrived and escorted the bully out, the diner finally exhaled. A quiet buzz of whispers filled the space, some admiring, some stunned, some emotional. Lily insisted she was fine, though the redness on her cheek spoke otherwise. She tried to thank Jack, but he only shook his head and told her she owed him nothing. But that moment changed something, not just for Lily, not just for the diner, but for Jack himself. Because when he stood up, Caleb wrapped his small arms around his father's waist with a fierceness Jack hadn't felt in years. The boy didn't say a word, but Jack understood the message perfectly: "I'm proud of you, Dad." As days passed, word of the incident spread through the small town. People who once only nodded at Jack now stopped to greet him, and customers left bigger tips for Lily, who found new confidence in herself. Jack didn't seek recognition, he avoided attention whenever possible. But something inside him had shifted, like a piece of himself that he'd buried years ago was finally breathing again. For so long, Jack had lived quietly, trying to shrink his presence so Caleb's world could feel gentle and safe. Yet that day showed him that his strength, once a source of guilt, could become a source of protection, kindness, and healing. Caleb saw it too. The little boy began walking taller, knowing his father wasn't just a man working long hours at an auto shop. He was someone who had once served his country and now protected the people in his community in the most human way. The diner slowly returned to its ordinary rhythm, but Lily always made sure to serve Jack and Caleb with a grateful smile. Sometimes, when the morning sun fell across the windows just right, Jack felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced since before the war. He didn't realize how deeply he had been carrying the weight of his past until he saw how his presence, his courage, gave strength to others. Life didn't magically become perfect. Jack still struggled with sleepless nights and worries about providing for Caleb. Lily continued fighting through her long shifts while caring for her mother. But a bond formed between them that day, a quiet understanding that kindness could still exist in a world wounded by cruelty. And somewhere deep inside Jack's heart, a new purpose began to take root. Not to fight, not to chase glory, not to carry burdens alone, but to show his son, his community, and maybe even himself that even broken people can become protectors of light. If this story moved you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Before you reach the ending, drop a comment below telling us whether you believe courage still exists in